Okay. So we are so happy today. Our beloved Father Abuna Daniel coming all the way from very far to bless us today. What a blessing. We're going to start with small ترنيمة لغاية لما اخواتنا يدخلوا بسرعة وبعدين أبونا يبلس us. You know what's the topic today? Anybody show the flyer? Huh? What is the theme of the day? Show me your glory. Show me your glory. Amen. You know my favorite song, right? ايه هي؟ برافو شاطر هي دي. يلا نصلي مع بعض. This is my favorite song. هنقولها بسرعة كده وبعدين أبونا يدينا كده. I bless my soul into your hand, my Lord Jesus Christ. Let me depend on you. Let me, I'll serve you. Please be my God in every way. God, I won't go astray. Sanctify my heart and my needs until I see you, Lord, as you have always said. O source of all goodness, as you have always said. O source of all goodness, come unto me, all you weary. Come unto me, and you'll find rest. Come unto me. I am the way, I am the truth. When my life gets filled with worries and darkness overwhelmed, the clouds will be despaired away by you, Prince of Peace. You are my shield, you are my hope, you are my strength, you are my goal, you are the perfect love, O Lord of Him. Then shall I fear, as you have always said. O source of all goodness, as you have always said. O source of all goodness, come unto me, all you weary.
Come unto me,
And you'll find rest. Come unto me. I am the way, I am the truth and love. You are my shepherd, I'll not want. Let me to still waters. Restore my soul, I'm calling you. Lead me to righteousness. Though I walk through the valley, with you I will fear no evil. You are my all the days of my life, as you have always said. O source of all goodness, as you have
always said. O source of all goodness,
come unto me, O weary. Come unto me, and you find rest. Come unto me. I am the way, I am the truth and life. Come take your cross and follow me. Fear not, I am with thee. Cheer up, I overcome the world. Your tears I'll wipe away. I showed you my love on the cross, and if you're faithful unto death, I will give you eternal love. Come now and follow me, as you have O source of all goodness, as you come unto me, O you weary, come unto me, and you'll find rest. Come unto me, I am the way, I am the truth. No. You know, tomorrow is a Sunday of what? Sunday of the way. Jesus is the way. فالآية بتقول هنا I am the way, the truth and life. فجود. احنا بكره today's reading was about the same, and tomorrow ابونا قال لنا هتبقى نفس الرسالة. Thank you, Abuna, for coming today. We have a very special event in the church. I'm glad that the number of the men today this is a phenomenon. This has never happened today. كل دايما بيبقى عندنا يعني سيدات اكتر شويه، فنشكر ربنا. احنا كنيستنا رجاله، كلها رجاله. شكرا.
Thank you. Absolve me, Abuna. Absolve me. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. Thank you for inviting me to come and speak on this beautiful topic, Show Me Your Glory. I usually like to have a PowerPoint prepared, but I've been running, unfortunately, too much these past couple of weeks. And so I couldn't put it, I have the lecture, I just couldn't put it in as a PowerPoint. So I just need you to pay attention, and if you get lost, just say rewind, and I'm happy to rewind. It's also good to kind of take some notes just to follow along with the ideas, so we can benefit from this. The first part of the first lecture or the first talk, I want to speak about this idea of show me your glory, in terms of what it means, what it entails, and who we have as examples for this in the past. I was looking in my library just this morning as I was leaving the house, and I found a book about the glory of God. It was this thick. And it was, I just started to look inside. Maybe I could get a couple of ideas as I was coming to add to the talk, and I realized it's such an immense topic. What does it mean, the glory of God? What do you think that means? What does it mean? We're gonna have maybe a little bit of discussion, and it's okay to have a wrong answer. But an answer is better than no answer. So what do we think? What do we think the glory of God means? I know. How would we describe it in the? What do we know about from the Old Testament?
A personal relation. How do you see the glory of God in your life or around you?
No, this is what we want for sure. What is it? Maybe His power, His. Yani, do we think the glory of God is something that would cause us to fall on our knees, or something that we would be enraptured for it? Do we? Okay, let me ask a small question. Do we think we can handle the glory of God? No. Right. Okay. So this is so we understand that we're asking for something that we can't handle, but we need to see. It's not just that we want to, but it's something that we need to see. We were created with the desire to be in a relationship with God. He installed that within each and every one of us. So many times when people leave the church, or they decide that they're going to go on the path that's the path of sin and the path of destruction and the path of A lot of times they're seeking something that they think they're going to find there, but they can only find it in the glory of God. Because this is how we were made. This is how we were created. Some people, they talk about it as a God-shaped hole. You have a hole in you that's only in the shape of God. And you can fill it with everything and anything, and it's not going to fill until you place God in that hole. And in the Old Testament, there are many stories that we have about those desiring to see the glory of God, and also in the Psalms. The Psalms speak about the face of God. The face of God and His glory are the same. Can we think of a few Psalms where we talk about the face of God? Or what we read our Egbeyas in the first hour, for example. Psalm 8, O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth is nice about glorifying God. But I'm thinking more about Psalm, I think 26, 27, the Lord is my light and my salvation. It says, your face, O Lord, will I seek. You said, seek my face, your face, O Lord, I will seek. Show us your face. And other places, hide not your face from us. Because when the feeling of God hiding His face from us is a feeling of there's not just glory, the opposite of glory, there's just emptiness. Hide not your face from us and show us your face is this idea and this desire to see the face of God. And also in the Psalms we say, I thirst for God. It's this desire when, think about it, when you're really thirsty, how much you just want a tall glass of water, especially here in the desert. I'm sure it happens often. But once we drink, we know that we're going to be thirsty again. This thirsting after and desire for God is a desire not just to satisfy a special need, but it's the desire to see something that is completely not human even created. We don't imagine or create God in our minds. We are human, He is God. And so when we desire to see God or the glory of God, He is completely different from us and who we are. And there's a beautiful story in the book of Exodus, chapter 33. If we could open up our Bibles, even if you have to do it on your phones. But don't check your messages. Focus with me. Exodus chapter 33, from 18 to 23. Exodus 33 from 18 to 23. Can I get somebody to read that? How about Jonah? Nice and loud.
Moses replied, reveal yourself to me. Then God said, I will
What translation are you using?
This is truth.
So this is it's good to have your eyes on a couple translations when you're reading the Bible. So here it's good, we have the Arabic right there, and in the English it's show me your glory. So this reveal yourself to me, we have to understand what does that mean, show me. So he's saying show me your glory. Not like he's hiding. He's not like show yourself to me. Like not that's not what he's asking for. He says I want to see your glory. It's a desire that he has and in his heart. And this word, just give me a small second. This word in the Hebrew is kabod. And that idea of that glory, it is the absolute presence of God. This is what not only he desires, but would come over the temple or come over the Ark of the Covenant when God was present. This glory. Keep going.
Then God said, I will pass before you in my glory, and I will proclaim my name, the Lord, before you. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. But he said, you cannot see my face, for no man can see my face and live. Moreover, the Lord said, here is a place by me, you shall stand on the rock. So it shall be while my glory passes by, that I will put you in the cleft of the rock, and will cover you with my hand while I pass by. Then I will take away my hand, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen.
So this isn't a story about literally he sees the back of God, like the backside of, like you'd see a human being. God is not human. There's a spiritual meaning behind that. But first we have to pause and we have to have in our hearts the idea of the desire to see the glory of God. I need to desire to be in the presence of God. I need to know that in His presence, like the Psalm says, is fullness of joy. I have to have this desire to see that. If I don't have this desire, I am not going to see it here and I'm not going to see it there. Yani, it's not something that I'll be rewarded if I do nothing about it here. I'll be rewarded with seeing this amazing image, but it's something that in us as servants, and Moses is the perfect servant of God. Like Moses is that like you could do an entire retreat just on Moses as the perfect servant of God. And
I have a question here before we go forward after the stuff. Here is going, like, as it was said, back, face, and behind. So now he's talking about Jesus Christ, that, like, I mean, God is unlimited and cannot see his back or
yeah,
not moving and stay in one place and not in the other place.
right.
So when he goes here, like, what can you explain about it?
Yeah, I'll explain. We'll get to the actual what he sees in a second. But the first is just the idea that he says, show me your glory, reveal yourself to me, is very important. It's essential for us as servants to always desire this, to desire this in our prayers when we pray in the morning, to desire this in our service, even when we go and we serve, to desire this when we come to the liturgy. We're not here just to take communion and leave. At the same time, we want to see something. And it's not a vision that we see with our eyes, but the eyes of our hearts. And so the eyes of our hearts are asking God, show us your glory. And you'll see that there is where, he says to him, you cannot see my face and live. Now this doesn't mean that the presence of God will kill us, but it means that the presence of God is something that only He is the one that can allow us, can fill us and protect us, so that when we see this vision, this image, we are not utterly, completely destroyed. There is another spiritual meditation about seeing the face of God versus seeing the back of God, which one of the fathers offers. Gregory, I see an icon of Gregory of Nyssa in the back. Gregory of Nyssa says, when you see the face of God, that means God is coming towards you and you are going in the opposite direction of God. And if you're going in the opposite direction and not following Him, then that is for sure death for you. But if you are seeing Him from the back, then you are following Him, and in following Him, you are going in that path, the way, the truth, and the life, like Abuna was just saying. That idea is that's the meditation. But there's also another meditation. As we know that God is not, He's not human, and we are not talking about human aspects. I mean, Moses is the one that's also writing about this. But God is protecting us, and as He's protecting us, and He passes afterwards, and it says He sees Him from the back. What often happens is in our trials, in our tribulations, and in our life, we don't recognize the hand of God now. But after the fact, when we look back, we see God was with us in this. So we see God, but looking at it from the past, or looking at it from a different vantage point. Always happens when we say, I don't know how I survived, these years, or I don't know how I survived this situation when I was in it. But now I can say God was the one supporting me and helping me. And even in the Psalms, if the Lord had not been on our side when men rose up against us, we would have been destroyed, as David, as the prophet David says. So now we have this desire. We have this desire to see God. And we have to understand that seeing Him and seeing His glory is not in the way that I'm seeing you and you're seeing me. It happens sometimes to some people, but that's not what we're asking for here. We're asking for a connection, we're asking for being in the presence of God, and we're asking for something to help us understand how great God is and how wonderful it is to be in this relationship, because from this we're going to go a little bit further in the next lecture about how we don't want to just see His glory, but we want to be filled with His glory. When it comes to seeing the glory of God, we have to just make a small note that there are sometimes false images or false visions of God. It's something the devil has done and continues to do even till today. And we have to always be careful not to say, we have to always test the feelings, because you are human and so you have emotions. And sometimes the devil can place emotions in you and you feel like, oh, this must be what God is, or I feel really great. And then you go for a period of time where you don't feel anything. And so you say, well, where's God? How come I don't feel this anymore? I had this great image of God, or I had this great vision of God, or I had this great feeling with God in prayer, and then my prayers become dry, and even my service becomes dry, and I find myself, I don't want to pray, so I don't pray. I don't feel like going to church, so I don't go to church. I don't want to serve, so I say, Abuna, I'm going to take a break from service. We have to understand that the vision of God is not something that comes and goes. It's something that you see and it remains before you, and it remains before you and is always guiding and inspiring you. This image of God, this glory of God, is something that you experience in your life, so that whether you feel God or not, you pray, because you know He's real. Whether you want to or not, you get up in the morning, you say your prayers, because the devil wants you to do it according to your desires. And so you feel like doing it, I don't feel like doing it, and you have an unstable relationship with God, and then we blame God. We say, God, I don't feel you in my prayers, and so it's your fault that I don't want to pray. But God is saying, I don't want you to pray just because you have feelings. I want you to pray because you know this is the right relationship for you to have. Some of you, if you have kids, you understand that you don't want your kids just to come to you when they need something. You want a relationship with your kids. And if your kids disappoint you, it doesn't change your love for the kids. Yes, it's something that you have to deal with, but you still want to have connection with the child. You want to have a relationship with the child. You don't want it to just be something where you're only being called on when needed, or they only come to you when they know you're going to give them something, right? It's the same with God. God is not looking for us to have relationships based on how He blesses us and guides us. He does give us sweetness in the prayers in the beginning, but then there are times where it becomes silent. Not that He is silent, but He is calling us into a deeper relationship, a more meaning relationship with Him. We have to continue to seek after this vision and to desire this vision. And this vision is very simple. You can see it in the story of Zacchaeus. Story of Zacchaeus in Luke, I believe Luke chapter either 16 or 19. Zacchaeus climbs up a sycamore tree, and it says, the gospel says, to see him. All he wanted to do was just see him. So he climbs up a tree. You can imagine he's dressed probably in a galabeya like this, and he's going up a tree, and it's just not really appropriate for somebody of his stature or somebody of his age to climb up a tree just to see him, even though he was short. But that made all the difference to Jesus Christ. He came to that spot, even though there was a crowd around him, and he said, Zacchaeus, come down, because I will come to your house today. So the desire to seek Christ, or the desire to see the glory of God, is responded to. Has to be sincere, and it has to be something that we pursue. Is it easy just to say, God, I want to see your glory, and He shows us His glory right away? No. And this is another story that we should always keep in mind when we think about the idea of the glory of God. When do we think is a moment in the life of Christ where He revealed His glory? The Transfiguration. Now, the second question, which is harder. Where in the Bible do we have these stories of the Transfiguration? Close. Luke 9 and Mark 9 and then Matthew 17. So Luke 9, Mark 9 and Matthew 17. It's not in the Gospel of John, but it's in these three Gospels. The Transfiguration is, maybe Abuni can search for an icon of the Transfiguration. I just want to show you one thing in that icon, but we know the story. They climb up a mountain called Mount Tabor. This mountain, probably, it took about 2 days to climb up that mountain. Oh yeah, anyone. I just want to show one thing. And this is, it doesn't matter if it's Greek or if it's Coptic. This is perfect. You see this circle around Christ? The circle around Christ, it's in iconography, it's called a mandorla. And a mandorla means it is a spiritual vision. Yani, if you were walking by the Mount Tabor at the very moment that Christ was transfigured and you took a picture, you wouldn't have seen it. It's not a physical image. And also you'll notice in the ascension icon the same circle, because if you were walking by the mount as he was ascending into heaven, you wouldn't have been like, hey, that guy's flying up into heaven. You wouldn't have seen it. It's a spiritual vision, right? We are physical eyes, but also spiritual eyes. When we talk about the blind man whose eyes were healed, he had spiritual vision, and then the physical vision came. The spiritual vision, he was able to discern that Jesus Christ was a man, a prophet, and able to worship him at the very end, only at that point when he saw him with his physical eyes. So that's the only thing I wanted to say about this. But let's first talk about the journey up Mount Tabor. It was a journey. It wasn't something that was... actually, I'm sorry, I missed the whole part. What did I start? We started talking about the desire to see God, and then the vision of God. But I forgot to mention something, so we'll come to the Transfiguration in a quick second. We also need to understand chapter 32 of Exodus before we move on from chapter 33. To understand 33, where we have 32, and 32 is a very story we know very well, which is what? The story of the golden calf. Why is there a connection between these two? Because the golden calf, I mean, you think about it, it seems so ridiculous. These people had the 10 plagues, and then after the 10 plagues, God parted the Red Sea. And by the way, one of the traditions, it wasn't just a big valley, like just to kind of give you, one of the traditions that Origen speaks about is that it was 12 valleys, 12 openings for each of the tribes. You know, when we say in 2 parts, it's not 2 parts, it's into parts. He divided the Red Sea into parts, 12 parts for the 12 tribes. So every tribe had their own lane to go through, and this is one of the traditions. I'm not saying this is dogma, so it wasn't just, it was a great miracle. And as they were going through and they passed through, the waters, came back, destroyed the Egyptians. And then when they didn't have water, he gave them water from bitter water. He turned bitter water into sweet. This is there's a lot of things that were going on. And all of a sudden Moses leaves, and then they saw that Moses was kind of taking his time up, and then they said to Aaron, get up, make us gods who shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us out of the land of Egypt, they think he brought, not God. The man who brought us out of the land, we do not know what has become of him. And so Aaron made these gods. What this says is that there is an innate and deep necessary desire for the presence of God. So you have these people acting in a negative way. And what happens? We all need the presence of God. So either the God in your life is going to be the God of gods and the Lord of lords, or you make something else which is less than God your God. And I'm saying this to you, to tell the youth and to tell others, everyone will have a God, and everyone will be part of a community. But it's what community and what God. And we can easily figure out what, like from today's gospel and tomorrow's gospel, the way, the truth, and the life. What do we follow? Right? And think about this. very carefully, because I suspect we follow mostly what we find on our phone. And mostly what we find on our phone is not coming from God. Even if it has God on it, it might not be exactly what we should follow. Yani if I were to say, the iPhone is the way, the truth, and the life, you'd say, no way. Right? But how much time do we spend with our phones? Or AI is the way, the truth, and life. This is now the generation we live in, where everyone asks ChatGPT before they blow their nose. Like they need to ask, is this the right way to do this? Is this the right way to do that? Has its value, but it also has a tremendous negative effect on us. And whether we might not say AI is the way, the truth, and the life, how much of our lives are we following AI? Just because it tells us it must be true, and we don't have to go into that right now. But we always need the presence of God. And these people who did not feel the presence of God made their own God. Moses, desiring to feel the presence of God, asked God, let me feel your glory. I want to see your glory. I want to show us your glory. The glory of God is the way that we can get close to God, feel God, understand God, but it isn't God. The glory of God and who God is two different things. But if we come into the presence of God, some fathers say this would be too overwhelming for us. And so that's why the glory of God is something on a lesser extent where we're seeing and feeling the presence of God, His face, His glory. And now we can jump to the story of the Transfiguration. In the story of the Transfiguration, any one of them, it's I'm just going to kind of go over the details so we don't spend too much time reading the story. But we have them going up a mountain. And like I said, in this going up of the mountain, it was a journey. It was a climb. It was something that took time out of Christ as well as out of these individuals. And what do we have at the top? We have Moses, we have Elijah, and we'll talk about Elijah in the next talk. We have Moses and we have Elijah plus Christ, which equals kind of like the total revelation of God. So you have God revealed Himself through the law, which is Moses. Moses is synonymous with the law. God revealed Himself in the Old Testament through the prophets, and Elijah becomes synonymous with the prophets. And then God reveals Himself through Jesus Christ, the perfect revelation of who God is. He who has seen me has seen the Father. He who knows me knows the Father. He who hears my words, the words that I don't speak of my own accord, but of the Father's, here's the Father. For all of these together show the full revelation, as if the answer to all of humanity comes in this episode, in this event, that God reveals Himself, and He reveals Himself to Peter, James, and John. Peter, James, and John are His closest disciples, the inner circle, the people that anytime something special happened, He took Peter, James, and John. And so for us, we see those that are close to Christ are rewarded with this image, rewarded with this event, rewarded with this experience of the glory of God. But it takes time. It takes labor. It takes on our side as servants, it requires us to climb. It requires us to climb. What could we say is the climb for us up Mount Tabor? What do you think is the way that we can follow the footsteps of Peter, James, and John in order to experience this experience of seeing the glory of God?
Following God's commandments.
Definitely following God's commandments. What else takes effort on our behalf? Humility. Okay. But I want to know also some actual physical things that we can do. Fasting. Like when it's time to fast, we fast. When it's time for prayer, we pray. This is all going to affect your servants. You know, like, if you as servants are constantly telling the kids to fast and pray, you will be able to be more powerful in that when you could say, I fast and I pray. Now, we might have health issues, but we don't take it upon ourselves to modify our own fast. We ask the priest, how can I do this? So that you feel comfortable that I'm fasting to the best of my ability with the permission and the guidance of my father of confession. Fasting and praying regularly. So the routine is really important. Routines will save your life, and routines will save the kids' lives. Like I always say, routines, we don't have to, if someone says, I don't feel anything when I pray, you say, still pray. I don't get anything out of the liturgy, still go to liturgy. Why? And I liken it to simply like putting on your seatbelt. Do you want to use your seatbelt that day? I don't want to use it. I'll put it on, but I don't want it, you know what I mean, when I use it, right? I don't want it to be a situation that I have to use it, but I'm going to be in the routine of always putting it on. Because in the moment that I need it, it will save my life, hopefully, right? It'll save my life. That's the point of routines, is that I do it every day, and there's going to come a time where that routine is saving my life. Saving my life from going in the wrong direction, from getting involved with the wrong group. It saves my life because it forms me and it puts up the guardrails for me in my life. That's the importance. And then when you speak as not from a dry well. You speak as somebody who's always having their well filled from God Himself. This comes from prayers. And the prayers of the Psalms are, unless, I'm going to be sarcastic here, unless you are as holy and spiritually developed as King David, right? To pray like this, it's better to learn from King David and those who wrote the Psalms and use them for your prayers instead of just having your own kind of routine repeated prayers, which are all important. Help my wife, help my kids, help my job. It's all good and important, but also it's important to praise God, glorify God, thank Him, ask for His mercy, ask for His protection. And not just the Psalms of the Agbeya, but the 150 Psalms. Do the extra credit. Read those Psalms, use those prayers. Some of those prayers come to you in the most, in your most difficult times, right? There's this one Psalm that, maybe you know the story. When Pope Shenouda was put in house arrest, one of the priests in Cairo said, I don't know who or what or when or where, but in Psalm 34, Psalm 35, Psalm 34, contend, O Lord, with those who contend with me, and fight against those who fight against me. It said that he turned the speakers into the streets, and he said this psalm. Imagine how powerful that image would be. And for sure, right? It was almost quickly the president was. These psalms give you power, and also they express what's inside of you, and they also fill you with the Word of God. Taking some time out of your sleep, sacrifice the luxury that you might have in your life. Yani, take a little bit from your sleep and pray. It'll be more beneficial for you to sleep less and pray more than to sleep more and pray less. This is an offering that you offer to God. I could be in my bed sleeping, but I'm offering, kind of like my tiredness. I'm offering it to you, and I'm going to stand in your presence, and thanking God for whatever He was able, to do in that day for you and to carry you, and recognizing, like we said, we see the hand of God looking back. Secondly, asking for His forgiveness and offering our daily repentance. And then thirdly, asking Him for preparing ourselves for sleep, knowing that there's a big possibility I might sleep and not wake up. If I wake up, allow me to wake up to praise Your name. Also, the routine, like we said, of the scripture, of reading the Bible. Moses and Elijah representing the law and the prophets, representing most of the Old Testament, plus Christ representing the New Testament. St. Paul says to us, let the word of God dwell in you richly. And I'll tell you a story from the Desert Fathers to help you understand what this means to dwell in you richly. One of the Desert Fathers gave a Bible to 3 of his disciples in the monastery. And you know, back then the monastery, the Bible was not as small as it is now, right? You could have the Psalms would be this big, the Gospel of John this big. It was like a library, basically. He says, here's the library, or here's the Bible. I'm going to come back in 1 year to see what you did. And so he goes and he comes back and he asks the first one, what did you do? He says, Father, I recopied the entire Bible, so now the monastery has 2 Bibles, so now there's more people can read the Bible, and I did this service for the monastery. He said, okay, that's pretty good, but you filled the monastery with paper. And so the second one comes and he says, Father, I memorized the entire Bible from the very beginning to the very end. He said, good, but you filled the monastery with air. And then the third one came and said, forgive me, Father, I only tried to live by this one verse, and I failed. And he said, you're the only one that used the Bible for what it was supposed to be used for. So when we say, let the word of God dwell in you richly, it means not in words, but to be active in your life. When you hear the word forgive, I forgive. When the word, turn your cheek, I turn my cheek. When it says, owe no one anything but to love one another, I love. So this is the servant has to have this daily. And then you will not only see visions, but you will see visions upon visions. And the vision of God will sustain you. It's really remarkable, the stories of people who were sustained just by the presence of God. And Moses is one of those people. He was on the mountain for how long? 40 days. I don't think any of us can go 4 hours without eating or drinking, right? And I put myself in that category. The idea, only because now science has told us that intermittent fasting is good for us, and we see the results that people are actually doing intermittent fasting. But the church and God has been teaching us since the time of Adam and Eve, it's good for you to fast. Anyway, so now we come to this period of time where he's on there and he's completely sustained. Completely sustained. You'd say it doesn't make sense. The human body needs X, Y, and Z. Yes, you might be right from a scientific point of view, but from a religious, divine understanding, God, who is the God of creation, is the one that's able to sustain us. And I remember this one sermon by Abuna Matta al-Maskin. He said, you know that the people of Israel were sustained in the desert because of the manna and the water from the rock, but God could have sustained them without anything. Because at the end of 40 years, God said to them, your clothing was not worn, and your shoes did not wear out. This is all supernatural. They complained because they remembered the meat of Egypt, the flesh pots and the fish and the onions and the leeks and all that stuff. They remembered all that good food because their God was their belly. But God was able to sustain them, and to prove that, Abuna Matta was saying, remember the story of Jesus when he was preaching to the kids, preaching to the multitude for 3 days. And he said to the disciples, they have been with me now for 3 days, send them lest they get weary along the way. Now, anybody here go camping? Right. You go camping, 3 days of food, you have, it's a lot, right? So these people probably had some food with them and carrying stuff around, but nothing like, 3 days. So there was definitely long periods of time of no eating and no drinking, and yet they were sustained. And ultimately, in the story of the Transfiguration, Peter says at the very end, Lord, it is good for us to be here. And he says, let us make 3 tabernacles. One for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. And the idea behind this is, there's a lot there, but it goes back to the idea of the Feast of the Tabernacles among the Israelites, and the idea of being intense and remembering the good days when they were in the desert and God was in their presence as a pillar of cloud during the day and as a pillar of fire at night. And so this idea of building tabernacles is, here we are in the presence of God. Let's stay here. Let's be in the presence of God for as long as possible. Unfortunately, we have to come down the mountain. We can't live up on the mountain. But your service should always be one of going up the mountain and coming down the mountain. You go up to take your time with God, and you come back. Has to be quiet time. One of the youth recently on a retreat, he said to me, Abuna, I get home and I'm super stressed out. I have all of these exams and all of these papers and all this whatever, and I just want to just relax for a little bit. So is it wrong for me just to spend some time on social media, just to relax, just to kind of veg out for a little bit? When I was young, it was I just want to watch a little bit of TV, just a little bit of TV, and then I'll be able to go back and do what I need to do. And the fact of the matter is this. Here's the problem. We don't know how to relax. We don't know how to de-stress and to just kind of let things. There's this word, this idea called recreation, right? Recreation. What does recreation mean to you? Have fun, right? Recreate. Like, I'm going to do some recreate, or there's something called extracurricular activities. Sorry, no, that's something else. Sorry. Recreation. You guys, you heard this word, right? Recreation. What are some ideas when you think about recreation? Right. Okay. Huh? No, we don't need this. Well, that's even the more extreme. Recreation, and the idea of recreation, it's right there in the word. It's supposed to recreate you. Recreate you, why? So that when you go back to work, you're fresh, right? Not tired. Like when you need a vacation from vacation, you're not vacationing right. Right? When you're coming back and you feel tired after the weekend, there's something that you're doing that you're not hitting the mark on that. Right? The idea of leisure, and this is why, forget about all multimedia and all this stuff. This is why people like to take walks, people like to garden, people like to build things with their hands, people have hobbies, right? Young kids now should be building and thinking about their hobbies. The only hobby they have is turning their phone on. And the only hobby they have is spending hours on some social media site where you don't even know what's coming. And there are guys in the back that I wish you guys were listening to this. Hey guys, psst, you, I'm talking to you. This is important. I'm talking about how we don't know what to do. The only hobbies we have in our lives is turning on our phone and looking at social media. And then, if we really want to go above and beyond, we share our social media, the stuff that's cool and stuff, we share it with our friends. So not only are we sinking down in our life, we want to bring others with us. And we have no idea what to do with our time. And so this is when this kid said, we just come home and we just want to, veg out and just look at this stuff on our screen. The problem is it's not beneficial for you, and it's not going to get you what you want. It's not going to help you. It's not going to. You might think you feel better. You might think, oh yeah, that's it. I needed that, dopamine hit from whatever I was watching or whatever I was doing. But you're not helping yourself develop as a human being, and you're not learning to cope with the stressful life that you're living, and you're not really drinking deep from a source that's really going to make you stronger individual to be able to deal with what you have to deal with. Jesus Christ himself can we imagine somebody living a more stressful life than Jesus Christ? You know what hit me a few days ago? Was like, he was 30 years old. Like 30 years for me now, it's like a baby. Right? 30 years old is young. He was 30 years old, and he was doing all of this stuff. And yet he would find time for prayer, to go even sometimes spending all night in prayer. You don't have to do that often, but the church gives us opportunities to spend in prayer at night. Easter, the resurrection, Christmas. Don't leave after the homily. Sometimes people are eager to eat. Stay for the prayers. Apocalypse night, of course, and then any other time where there might be an evening liturgy. But this is, Christ would do this and show us the example of someone who goes back to the Father and then comes back to doing his work which he had to accomplish. For us, it's even more vital and more essential. And so what would I say? Instead of hopping on your phone, instead of learn to take walks, learn to be in silence, learn to reflect. Even as adults, sometimes we say, I'm going to put a podcast in my ear and I'm going to go take a walk. Okay, good. If that's what's going to encourage you, do that. But eventually get to the point where I can sit in silence. Even just saying something like the Jesus prayer or some of the other prayers that I have memorized. This will greatly increase your productivity wherever you are at work and help you to be at peace. Most of our work life and most of our school life is us, I'm going to use an expression, us in a dumpster fire. Like, right, where everything around us seems to be burning and I can't put it out and I'm in the fire, right? I don't want to say the priesthood is like that, but it has some similarities. But the beautiful example of the three holy youth in the fire is they had the angel of the Lord, or we can say they had Jesus Christ with them, and it made the fire into a garden, into a paradise, into a pleasant place where they were able not only to be there, but to praise God in the fire. God didn't extinguish the fire. The fire was shown to be real because the guards went to stoke it and they died. That's to show it would kill a non-Christian. It would kill a human being who doesn't have God. But we have to be those that are always in the fire, but able to handle that. Now, what could you think the three holy youth would do after they went home? They went on their phones, social media, TikTok for a couple hours. That was a real stressful day. We were in a furnace for a couple of hours. And now we have to de-stress and I need my time on the phone. No, they are in love with God and they saw the hand of God and they continue to be in that right relationship with God. Do yourself a favor and take these practices. And they're so beautiful and so enriching for you. And these are where you can understand what it means to see the vision of God. I don't want to go too long. I'm about at an hour, but give me like just a few more minutes. The devil's main attack is not major sins. The devil's game is he will just distract you 1 minute at a time for the rest of your life. I'm sure you've read Screw Tape Letters or heard about C.S. Lewis's Screw Tape Letters. It's a very delightful book where an older devil is telling his younger devil nephew how to trick a person into sin. And he doesn't say, like, don't tell the person, don't pray. They're obviously going to know that that's from you. But tell them, prayer is important. You have to pray. Prayer is beautiful and sweet. But just don't do it right now. Do it a little bit later. And later always becomes do it later, always becomes never. And the same with our fasting, the same with going to church, the same with calling up one of the youth that you haven't seen in a while, the same with going to confession. All of that stuff is he's going to distract you. And his greatest tool is now what? He's got social media to distract you. And later on it's going to be AI. Not later on, it's now. Now is AI as well. And if we allow this to happen, we are going to just, for the rest of our life, not have a life. You know what the crisis is? And I'll tell you this. We live in this very small moment all the time. And what's that small moment? The Greeks had a word for this. The word for the now. Now, the now that we're in, is not something that you can measure with time because it's just a flash, it's just a moment. That word is called kairos. Kairos is the word for time, but it means the present. And then there's Chronos. Chronos is the tick-tock on the clock. It's 12:30, that's Chronos. Chronos, you don't live in Chronos. You only measure time by Chronos. I cannot live in the past, and I cannot live in the future. When the second hand stops, that's the time that I'm living in. Does it make sense? You look like you're... I'll say it again. I'll give it to you in another... Sometimes kids come up to you and say, what am I going to do in heaven? If I do it for 100 years, 1,000 years, it's going to be so boring, right? Because they're thinking about Chronos. Chronos goes away. Chronos is the sun, the rotation. Chronos disappears. Kairos is what happens. So you're just in the now always. There's no memory or no thinking about the past, and there's no anxiety about the future. You're just in the now. And the now constantly gets better. So you go from glory to glory for eternity. Nicer way to think about it. Whatever is good now gets better. And when it's better, it gets even better. And you don't get bored, you don't feel like things are taking forever, or you're just going to be saying Kyrie eleison for the rest of eternity. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's about being in the now. Here on earth, we completely have begun erasing the now. That's when kids say, I'm gonna kill some time, I'm just wasting time, I'm gonna go on my phone. There's all of these chunks of the now where I'm just diving into something. And you don't have experience, and you don't have memory. Right? Just like you don't remember what you ate a week ago, you don't remember what you did on TikTok or Snapchat or whatever a week ago, 2 weeks ago, an hour ago, last night. And the things that we do is, we don't realize this, but subconsciously, not subconsciously, consciously, I go and I grab my phone in the morning. And the last thing I do is I kiss my phone goodnight and I put it, this stuff is destroying our relationship with God, our relationship with one another, and our relationship with ourselves. It's all three. It's hitting us on all levels. I don't know how to be with myself alone in a room, silent. My thoughts attack me. I have all this, I worry about the future, the past, and I can't handle life. And so I need some sort of medication, which is this phone, right? And how are we going to see God? Is He going to appear to us in an Instagram post, or some sort of you're laughing, right?
Recreation drugs.
Right. That's still no. I mean, this is how far we've got. Recreation is supposed to recreate us, and people don't want to be recreated. They want to be not themselves. They want to do something that's not going to help them remember who they are or what they're supposed to do. And so we waste our time, we waste our life. You're not going to have, the bottom line is, you're not going to have a vision of God if you're constantly being distracted. And the thing is, even when I read my Bible and I say my prayers and I come to church, my mind is distracted. It's because I've trained my mind, and everyone say, I got ADHD and I got to do 2 things or 3 things at the same time in order to concentrate. No, you have to understand is that you've kind of created a problem where I can't sit still without thinking about something else. And the idea is, if God is in front of us, if I feel that presence and I train myself to be present where I am, in the presence of God, I will have more likelihood to see Him, to hear Him, to understand Him. If we didn't repeat maybe 3 times what the gospel was, no one's going to remember what the gospel. But if I ask you, where were the Pauline epistle from? Or the Catholic epistle? Or the Acts? I could just go to my phone and see that. But we're not, our minds are there to be able to remember and to understand and to retain and to be able to kind of cause these seeds that are being sown within our hearts to produce fruit. So the vision of God which we are desiring, we have to do ourselves a favor and allow ourselves the opportunity and train ourselves to really seek after that vision. I can't tell you how detrimental this is to the spiritual life, these habits that we have. And I was joking about AI, but this is the next habit that is developing. People got habituated to computers, and then smartphones, and now AI. AI, what is AI going to do for me in the future? Everything I need, instead of asking Google, Google's going to go away, and I'm going to have AI, and I'm going to have my own companion. And you can have a friend. And what's scary about this is this companion, if you ask it, like, I have 10 ingredients here, and I want to cook dinner. what can I make out of it? It'll help you. But when you start talking to this thing as a friend, which people do, and the youth do, and the youth are isolating themselves, talking to these things, having these things on their phone, and I'll tell you a terrible story that happened last month in my area, where a child, a 16-year-old kid, was talking to this AI companion, basically saying, "Is it really worth it? Is this life really worth it?" And the end of the story is he committed suicide. Why I'm saying this is because this is the world that our kids are growing up in, and the best thing that we can do is get them as far away from this stuff as possible. They're not fully developed. For me to use a chat GPT is much different than a 16-year-old or a 15 or an 8-year-old to use this stuff. And so we have to get them as far, and not only as far as possible, but help them to taste something that is far greater than what they'll ever experience or see in these devices. We're at war. We're at war with a lot of what's going on in this world, and we have to take that very seriously. But if you're doing the same things as them, don't think it's the same thing. You're more developed. For those of you that grew up pre-2000, and you had your life, you know what life was like before the internet, before all of this stuff, and it was beautiful. It was nice. It was, and nowadays, yes, it's convenient, and there's a lot of good stuff out of it. But you handling that device is a lot different than your children handling that device. And for us, what we want to do is give them a vision of God. But you can't give them something that you don't have or you never experienced. So this desire for the vision of God, show me your glory, has to be a daily request that we have. And we run and we seek after it with all of our heart and our energy. Show me your glory, I'm going to pray my Agbeya. Show me your glory, I'm going to read my Bible. Show me your glory, I'm going to go to Vespers. Show me your glory, I'm going to serve the kids. Show me your glory, so that what I see from you, what I take from you, I can give to them. And this is the first step in our kind of service. And I'm going to end the talk here. We can just leave it at that, Abuna, or do we? I'll have maybe an activity that we can think about later on. Or sorry, Abuna, is there anything to add, Abuna?
Any questions or any points, أبونا توماس؟ أي حد عايز يسأل حاجة؟ وأنا مش عايزين قدسك تخلص بصراحة. We're so delighted and happy. So طب I have a question, أبونا. So all of us have phones. So what is the right setup for us to use it? كلنا بنقول ايه, oh it's fun, يعني let me have a little bit of fun. So word fun, we need to figure it out, يعني how to teach our kids. What does it mean fun? يعني because anything starting from sometime, oh today liturgy was great, Abuna, we had fun. So from this perspective to having fun in a bad way, really bad way. So قدسك يعني from قدسك experience, عشان قدسك يعني grab our attention to focus on how we deal with these devices, which is hard to handle.
When you say yes to one thing, you say no to another, and that is very basic. But in general, when I'm saying yes to phone and the fun that comes on the phone, I'm saying no to a lot of other things. And what are those other things that we should work towards and try to help our kids understand as well? So there's extremes, but I'm going to try to build up slowly. If you have kids, right, and if you have a family, or you are a child in a family, for some of the younger ones, have you ever been in the room and everybody is on their phone? Or been in a room? Have you ever been? Huh? How can we as the parents model to the kids that the right behavior, right? Like when I was a kid, right? If I didn't look at my dad when he was speaking to me, that was rude, right? I can't be on my phone, and so that idea of look at me when I'm talking to you is not. It's not because I'm offended. It's because this is what a human being does. But us as human beings, not only are we not talking face to face, but we insist on text messaging conversation that should be face to face. Like I tell spouses, don't ever text message, if it's not like grab milk on the way home, don't say anything more than that. Don't get into this whole we're meant as human beings to interact with one another and as families as one another. And so we have to create opportunities for this in your home as well as in the service here at the church. Why do we go on retreats? You go on a retreat, there's a talk in the morning and a talk in the evening. What's all this waste of time in the middle? That's not waste of time. That's time for us to have fellowship, to talk to each other, to make sure that we're building relationships and we're growing in love for one another. I don't know this individual, so I'm going to spend time with this. Those kids don't get to see each other most of the year, and they're playing with each other. This is essential for us as human beings. Forget about Christianity. As human beings, creating community and connecting with one another on a human to human level. The phone is got to be secondary or even completely out of. We should be able to exist and to live without our phones. We should be able to, and there are people that do this, not Christians, just people that understand more about humanity than we're willing to accept. And I hate to say this, we are like sheep, but in the bad sense. We're not like sheep like in the flock of Christ. We're like sheep where we just follow what everybody else is doing. We have to wake up and see that this stuff is dangerous. We can't just do what everybody else is doing in society. One of the things about, some animals is that if you just keep following the herd, you might fall off a cliff and not be able to stop yourself because that's where everybody else is going. We are in society, we are heading towards that cliff. And these phones that we think are like, there was a time where it'd say a phone is neutral. It's not good, it's not bad, it's neutral. If you want to use it for good, it could be good. If you want to use it for bad, it could be bad. But we're inching towards that no, this is actually dangerous. And if I could, as a priest, if I could go back to a landline, where's Abuna? He's at church or he's at home. And if you want Abuna, you go to Abuna. Or if you want him, he's at church. But if I can go back in time to that, I think it would be a lot more beneficial. People are texting me questions which needs long time to sit, and they want something right now. That's not how life works. So for us, I think as a family and as a church, I talked to my church, and I'm actually going to talk to them again tomorrow. I told them church is going to be a phone-free zone. Phone-free. And I'll tell you, I don't want to cause problems. But here, there is a book called The Anxious Generation, which shows that in 2012, when smartphones, first off, they started to add Snapchat and Snapchat and other social media sites around that time, and the front-facing camera, so not just on the back, the front-facing camera, the level of of mental illness and anxiety and depression and suicidal attempts and suicide increased. Like we're not like this, went like that among kids, teenagers. So you say, what changed? That's what changed, the phone. And then we put this device in the kids' hands and they don't know how to handle it. So we said, okay, at least at church, we're going to talk to each other. And everyone's going to be welcomed into a conversation. And we're going to not have anybody isolated and on their phone in some corner of the church, not interacting. And the recommendation from that book is an 8th grader and below, no 8th grader should have a phone. In 8th grade or in 9th grade, they get a phone. And junior year of high school, if necessary, they can have social media, but under the watchful eyes of their parents. This book was published a few, maybe like last year or the year before. This book and other, there's so many. There's so many books being put out, not by Christians. This guy was an atheist from NYU. And he said Christian households are a little better because of the community that we form. Most kids completely have no friends, not most kids. A lot of them are not able even to build friendships.
Yes.
You want them to be able to get married tomorrow or in the future and have kids and be able to interact with society. We have to teach them how to do that from now, and that's that human interaction. So here, what you'd say in church, at least in this church, in this present, everybody's going to be with each other. Everyone's going to be with each other. And so that was number one, and then, and so that's the modeling. And why do you need a group to do it? Because if this couple has their kids with a phone, and then this one says no, and they're going to say, well, they're allowed to have a phone, and well, we're not going to let you have it. It causes tension. And so everyone has to sort of say, we're going to commit to something like this. It doesn't have to be that exactly. And I have a small church. They were saying it might be a little bit bigger than this, but I don't think so. I think it's a small church still. But we have a lot of young families. And the young families understand this concept and are very much in favor in supporting this. My son's high school, before the state did anything with social media and phones, my son's high school committed to no phones on campus, and also insisted that we follow these rules of nobody on social media until junior year. That's my son's high school, right? And so that's something where we have to be leaders, not sheep following. We can't say everybody is doing this and this is what everybody. That's the worst kind of idea, because I have a presentation that I went to a couple. Yesterday or the day before. I'll send it to Abuna Paul to share with you, just about the dangers of artificial intelligence. So now, when you go to your phone, you have to say, am I modeling good activity? Isn't it better for us to model activity by having a Bible in our hands, or having, we're praying our Egbeya at night, or sitting around and we play? I know it sounds silly, but to play a game is not about playing a game. When I play chess with my son, it's not because I feel like beating him in chess, right? Or I'm trying to get him to learn better at chess. I get to talk with him. I get to interact with him. We play card games sometimes, and my mother-in-law, she says, I was never allowed as a kid to play cards. My father never let me play cards. That was the Saidi way. So she's like, can you teach me to play cards? So the kids are teaching her to play cards, but this is building a connection between them. My children in our home, I'm a very, unfortunately for them, I'm very strict about the idea of electronics. And so it's always been, they quickly never would say to me, I'm bored. Because the second they say, I'm bored, I say, great, my job is done. I want you to be bored. Because when they're bored, they start to be creative and imaginative. And they start to think and even reflect. You know, sometimes the kids have a really bad day at school. And one of my sons kept coming home with a nasty attitude. Because it was just a bad day at school, and they're kids, they don't know how to deal with it. So I said to him, you know, Habibi, I want you to ride your bike home from school. And that mile or so of just him leaving school, and then the road home helps him to think about the stuff that and he came back in a better mood. And he comes back and we're able to talk. He knows, now we can figure out, what's going on and how to make things better. And our life is not to save our kids and entertain them for the rest of their life. That's the worst. Our life is not to be entertained and to entertain. That's not what the job of the parents are for kids. And definitely not the job of the Sunday school teachers or the Sunday school. It's to teach them how to be real human beings, interacting, be able to articulate and say things, be able to mess up, to be able to say, I made a mistake. Like, I was in a youth meeting yesterday, and I was like, guys, I need you to answer the question. Don't worry if it's wrong. We live in a society where you can go and get the right answer on ChatGPT for anything, or an answer, but we need to learn how to do things in a way that we're interacting and building off of each other. My knowledge is to be shared with you. and your knowledge to be shared with me, so that together we grow together as a community and as a family. So, and just watch your own, just take, I was saying this before, Americans, people that aren't Christians, they go unplugged for weeks. And I promise you, every Lent, I tell the youth in my church, get off of social media, don't listen to music, no Netflix, no TV, no movies, no nothing. We start, they're complaining. By the end, they're like thanking me. And even better, in my son's high school, again, they went away for a week on a special retreat where they read Tolkien, they read Lord of the Rings for an entire week. Kids coming back, kids going there, they put their phones in a shoebox, and for the entire week, they were just reading this literature, and they didn't have their phones. The parents knew, everybody. On the way back, they were driving back from up north, and they were about an hour away from the school. So the teachers gave the kids, they opened the shoebox with all the phones. They said, kids, come, take your phones and call your parents. Kids were frozen. They were like, why are you giving that back to us? They didn't want to go back to that world. They didn't want to go back to that world. They said that the teacher says they called their phone, they called, and then they threw the phones back in the box. We are giving them a gift by giving them freedom from this enslavement. These are all addictions. These are all addictions. And we are addicted, and we allow them to be addicted. We have to stop that cycle and free them from that as well.
When dealing with kids in this age, as Otzek said, they are all numb. So, the receptors, it's already blocked. So sitting with kids in junior high school for half an hour or 1 hour in the class, the whole day they're spending on the phone. So they are not with us. So we're talking to them.
Yeah.
I think neuroplasticity they deform their brain to not easy to receive love or to give love or to be genuinely expressing their emotions.
So forget that, I'm going to say that, but also in the liturgy. In the liturgy is not meant for people who are seeing images at like 10 per second, right? And we are not doing ourselves a favor by accustoming ourselves and allowing the kids to be accustomed to constant stimulation. When they're constantly stimulated and they come here and they're going to say it's boring. Good, it's okay for it to be boring. I want to do something, I want to have fun, I want to whatever. We'll say, no, we have to be able to be here. This is important. And so, in my mind, when I was growing up, for example, we were told no movies on Saturday nights. Right? That was like back then. That was like a big deal. Right? No movie on us. Everybody went to the movies Friday and Saturday. We were not allowed to go to the movies on Saturday night. Why? Because whatever images and ideas and thought on Saturday is going to be in the liturgy on Sunday morning in my head, and I won't be able to free myself of it. And I on the days and the times that I did break that rule, I experienced it. I experienced it. Even just on the drive to church, no music. Just we sit in silence, we think about, prepare ourselves for the liturgy. It takes work. We can't just show up to church or Sunday school and expect everything to happen. And that's why the parents need to take a role and a responsibility. And we have to really educate ourselves to educate the parents on how important it is to free their kids from this cycle. It's used as a babysitter, and it's not a good babysitter. It's actually, forgive me for saying this, when we give our kids phones or put them in front of screens, we are again sacrificing our kids to the idols. Because this is the way the devil, it begins to creep in. And if we think that no, this devil has nothing to do with it, we're lying to ourselves. Even on YouTube Kids is supposed to be safe. You're only 1 or 2 clicks away from something very dangerous. And I've witnessed this with myself. Now, you go and Disney, whatever, Disney without ads is I saw an ad about sex. And my son is watching some cartoon, and then this ad about sex comes on. And then what? We have to pay more money to take away the ads? I said, cancel this whole thing. This is all nonsense. Right? He doesn't have to, what did he? He doesn't need to. So this is. I mean, we have to be very vigilant about what we do, and we have to encourage and teach the parents. It's not hard, but we have to. The job of the parent is not to be a friend to their kids. The job is to cause the kids to know what are the guardrails, and you're going to have certain things that are non-negotiable, and that has to be in every family. Now there are things that you can be flexible about, but there are certain things that have to go in that non-negotiable list. Like if your kid said, "I want to have a tattoo on my face," it's not going to be a fight. I hope not. It's not negotiable, right? And so there's certain things. I want Snapchat. No. It's
بس انا ودي قلنا اي حاجه يعني anything we can discuss in there that gets why I cannot have a tattoo, why the word why it's like the
yeah. The certain things that if they can understand and explain, you can they can understand certain things and they're asking for a good reason, you can give them a good reason. But if they can't understand, it's enough to say just now you can't understand, but tomorrow or when you get older, I promise I'll tell you why. But not everything, you have to understand it's a child. The child is not fully developed, fully aware, it doesn't understand everything. Even now, I'm at that point with my kids where I'm talking to them and they don't understand. One a bit nervous. I'm like, how come you can't understand this? But if somebody else comes in and says, no, this is right for these reasons, that helps me. And that's the point of the community, right? Where the parent might not be able to get across, but a Sunday school teacher can. Where maybe Abuna and the parent are not succeeding, but some of the older youth can help, right? So this is where the community has to help out.
شور كل الناس اللي موجودين دول هيرنوا عيالهم علقه النهارده، هيبقى يوم كله بقى هيروح هيشيل التليفونات هتبقى فيه صراخ وعويل وبكاء
No,
gonna be cries today.
Just do it slowly. Do it slowly. But at the same time, understand the vision. If you don't have vision and direction, if you don't know where you're going, then you might apply a rule but not know why, and then fil akhir it could be.
I think when we start with ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
We are spending more time on phones. So if you want your kid to, so انت start بنفسك وقول لا خلاص I will not. So what about we do some كده نقطع كده سوشيال ميديا تبقى بس once كده half an hour a day maximum مثلا، ايه رايك يعني؟ نفسي نعمل حاجه يعني out of this uploading.
There's a psychiatrist in our church, and he says the maximum you need to go on your phone for like مثلا the news. Maximum is like 5-10 minutes. You just see the headlines, and then that's it. على فكرة most of that news, if you're not getting your news, just because sometimes news is what we are excited about. If you're not getting the news from a source that you know, like not like Yahoo, but like let's say the Wall Street Journal or Ba'd al-Shar, the New York Times, or one of these, you don't know if it's AI that has generated the story, and the AI story can be completely false. So that's one of the things. So he says just 10 minutes just to get like the quick headlines, and then that's it. Everything else, Instagram, that doom scroll, or any of those other things, you don't know what's the next thing, but you're being like it's like gambling. Maybe the next time I do it, I'll get something good. Maybe the next time, and it's just has to be completely taken out. There's no easy way. You could put a timer on your phone, but just realize that this is wasting of your time.
رأيك يا شباب؟ What about we follow أبونا؟ احنا we not out of force يعني out of love to yourself. We can stop wasting our time on phone. Be bored is good. Go to the backyard, find worm or something in the backyard. Do anything, whatever you want. But يعني أنا thinking أبونا big time for this, because sometimes we are using the pacifier of the baby like this. We use Facebook like this or social media or like this, right?
And even if you find something good, there's millions of good things. Just because you found something good doesn't make it good.
Correct.
Right? And the idea is I want to see the glory of God. So I can't see it if I'm going to be on the phone. He's not going to come through.
The point أنا slave يعني even it's good, but I'm in the leash like a dog. The social media pulls us and then giving me like a treat. But you are still in the slavery mood. You're not in control of your amazing. Yeah.
Okay. we'll take a break and then come back.
So ناخد up to 1:15 كده break. 1:15. We'll wait for you also. اتفضلوا ناخد بريك بسرعة. نشوفكم كمان ربع ساعة.